All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Daru Strong Podcast. My name is Phil Daru. I am your host. Today, we have the pleasure of talking with Mr. Rhadi Ferguson, Dr. Rhadi Ferguson, PhD, also a judo Olympian and a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and also dabbled in a little bit of MMA too as well. Great strength and conditioning coach, great mind, one of the smartest people that I've been able to converse with. The great thing is that we are both from American Top Team. He started over there about, I want to say, 10 years ago when I started with Dean Thomas. So there's some history there too as well. But before we go on and talk to Rhadi, I want to go ahead and make sure that I shout out the sponsors. Revive MD, right? We want to go on to revivesubs.com. Revive MD is one of the leading people and sponsors for this podcast, on top of the fact that they put out quality supplementation for all athletes from bodybuilding, powerlifting, strongman, and also MMA. So go ahead, go on to revivesubs.com. Check out my brand new Phil Daru athlete stack that you can get now for 20% off if you use the discount code DaruStrong20. Also want to make sure that you guys know that we do have a YouTube channel for the Daru Strong Podcast. Go check that out, hit subscribe, and you'll get an opportunity to get my 6-week off-camp MMA program for completely free. So that's good. Free is always good. And I also want to make sure that you guys check out Body Armor. It's my brand new 8 weeks program for body weight training only. I know you guys are stuck in the pandemic era, a little bit of lockdown there. So guess what? I decided to throw out a brand new program for you guys that develops your strength, that increases your endurance, that increases your explosive power, all from the comfort of your home with your own body weight. So check that out at darustrong.com. Now, let's get into our conversation with Mr. Rhadi Ferguson.
Welcome to the Daru Strong Podcast. Daru Strong Podcast.
Let's go. Mind over matter. Put your mind somewhere else and keep going. That little voice in your head is trying to stop you from getting to where you want to be. Be successful and keep moving forward.
With your host and world-renowned strength and conditioning coach, Phil Daru.
Man, I've been around the game on the MMA side, man. US 50, US UFC 50, UFC 60. Back when Munson was training.
Yeah.
I trained Brandon Vera. Trained a lot of dudes, man. I actually watched you. I watched you come up and come through.
Really?
That it's a marketplace. That's what the hell it is.
Yeah.
I watched you come through the marketplace, and you came through, man, like a cannonball, man. It was good to watch you come up, and a lot of people don't know in that environment, it is very difficult to be a coach and a trainer.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of trainers in that environment who didn't know how to coach.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're a strength and conditioning coach, you got to understand how to deal with a myriad of personalities in a mission-focused environment.
Uh-huh.
Like, man, the rough part about being at any top-level team, American Top Team, any top-level team, is that everybody in that environment wants to be the best.
Very true.
Everybody has a healthy suitcase of ego that they carry around. That's
a nice way of saying it. I like it.
Exactly. And it's your job to make everybody feel important, while at the same time, like on any team, buddy, I don't give a shit if it's the Olympic team or the NFL or American Top Team or any other MMA team. There's a pecking order in that joint.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't get prime time pad work, just like you don't get prime time. Some people warm up on their own and then come see me, and some people I sit around and help them with the warm ups.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it is, and it's really difficult for people to understand the nature of that environment, the nature of that beast. And I sit back and I watch you, and you really do a good job with it, while at the same time developing your person, developing your brand, and developing. Man, kudos to you, man. Hats off to you. I watch you. I pay attention, man. You're doing an excellent job.
That actually means a lot coming from you with the amount of things that you've done. I've been watching you since I started with Dean. I was probably like 19 years old, 20 years old.
Yep. And I was with Jason Santana.
Yeah, exactly. and just to watch you, just all the accomplishments that you've had in the past. Now, for people that live under a rock and don't know who you are, Rhadi, go ahead and give them kind of like a background of like what you've done, you know, all the things that you've done. I know we don't have a whole lot of time, but just go through it for them real quick.
Well, like you, Phil, I went to a historically black college. A lot of people don't know you went to Alabama State. I went to Howard University. And the one thing you learn at a historically black college, man, is you learn how to get stuff done no matter what goes on. If the lights go off in the city, you know how to use the regular typewriter, put the tape in there, and get your paper in on time. The teacher doesn't want to hear that the lights went off in the city.
No.
And with that understanding, man, when I graduated from college, I graduated from Howard University. I was 2-time Black College National Champion in football. I also won a MEAC championship, Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference championship in wrestling. I was able to be, I'm a Hall of Famer at Howard University. I then went into, back into judo. When I did judo, I won 4 national judo championships. I also was an alternate in 2000, became an Olympian in 2004. I placed 16th at the Olympics. And what I learned along the way was I had to learn how to train. I didn't know how to train. I knew how to, I had the elements of what we call get it doneness in the black college, but I didn't really, you know, and you know what I'm saying? And you just get after it, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't have the science behind it. I didn't know how to put all the ingredients together and make a perfect dish. I mean, I can go in there and make some grits and eggs, but if I wanted to make some eggs Benedict, I couldn't get it done. And I went back and I got my certification to the NSCA, CSCS certified USA weightlifting club coach, level 1, level 2, USA weightlifting sports performance. I ended up teaching at the university level. I taught at the University of Tampa and the University of Central Florida. I taught exercise science, kinesiology, and nutrition. I didn't know that. And all those things for me was self-taught. I got an undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering, a master's of arts for teaching, and a PhD in education. And I wrote my dissertation on sensory motor training and how you can improve performance in the NFL 225-pound bench press, the failure test without any weight, because I was thinking about how you get things done in a black college environment or a small Division I AA environment when you don't have rows and rows and racks of bench press. How can we get marked improvement in that particular area without all that equipment? We got a lot of medicine balls, but we don't have a lot of bench press. How do we increase strength through inter and intramuscular coordination? So that's what I wrote my dissertation on. It. All those things I took and I learned from J.C. Santana and Paul Chek and Mike Boyle and all those people in the industry. And I took all those things, man, and I used them for myself. And then, you know, it's not science unless it's repeatable. So then I started using it for my clients, and I trained people who went to the Olympics. I ended up being the head coach for the Bahamas Judo Federation. Where I trained the youth Olympian there, and of course I trained many national champions there because they got their own country. I ended up being the strength and conditioning coach for the Bahamas Judo Federation. I still consult for them. I've been able to travel, man, around the world and teach and coach. And now I own my own company with my business partner, Alwa Henderson, Switch On, where we do, you know, health and wellness coaching, more of a softer approach. And I just got out of the strength and conditioning world hardcore. But if I have a client, I'll still deal with that client. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I mean, you, and not only have you been in the coaching world, but obviously you're an accomplished athlete. So with that, and what's one thing that, like, for me, having to run a business and then be a professional athlete and then try to coach on top of that, it's very hard to juggle those, you know, all those different things. There's a lot of moving parts. How are you able to just compete at such a high level, but still be able to coach and teach and things like that?
Something has to suffer.
Yes.
And it's not because you're trying to make anyone or anybody suffer. It's because there's only 100% of you. There's only 24 hours in the day. And then you have your own personal value system. You know, right now I'm writing a book with my business partner called Becoming Your Own VIP. And you know the directions when you get on the airplane to put the mask on yourself before you help small children or anyone else. And the bottom line, and you know this during the day, your day runs smoother when you get up at 5 o'clock, 5:30 a.m. and you knock out your quick left hit or some cardio. You can't do it as long as you want to because you have other things on your plate now. But if you don't order your day and handle you first, everyone else suffers.
Yeah.
And the way that you do it, to answer your question, is make sure that you give yourself oxygen first. Make sure you feed yourself first. Make sure you get up in the morning and do your workout, do your meditation, and do your reading and do your prayer and do your stuff first. And then when you do that, you'll be able to help everybody else at the maximum. But if you don't take care of yourself at the maximum, you won't even be able to help anybody else at the minimum. And I think that's the most important thing. And because we're in the strength and conditioning world, and that deals with not only the psychomotor side, but also the affective and the cognitive, how people feel and how they think. Yeah. You still got to go through that process of working out in the morning so you can see what it feels like to not want to get up, to see what it feels like when you gotta get on that glute ham and your hamstrings are sore from the workout, and to know what do I need to tell this person in this space so that they don't quit on me. So they give me the maximum they need to give. Yeah. It's like I was watching the fight the other day with Ferguson and Gaethje. And a lot of people were criticizing
Ferguson,
my man from my 10th Planet, Eddie Bravo.
Oh yeah.
For telling the guy to do the Imanari roll. And Eddie Bravo's been coaching in MMA for a long time. Eddie Bravo gave the advice that he had at the forefront of his mind at that time. Was it the best advice? It was the best advice that he knew. Okay. And because this is no knock, Eddie is a genius. I know Eddie perfect, but because Eddie hasn't done a lot of MMA, and because Eddie hasn't stepped in the cage, and because Eddie hasn't done those things, Eddie, at the forefront of his mind, the advice that he gives would not be the same advice that you and I give. Yeah. Which is close the distance, put his back to the cage. We need to win the round. For sure. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, that makes sense. And that doesn't have anything to do. Eddie's advice wasn't bad. Eddie's advice was great for what he knows. You still get up and you hit the bag every once in a while. I still get up and I still do some shadow. I'll still put on the gloves every once in a while and mix it up and get hit in the face just a little bit so that I'm fresh in that space. You understand what I'm saying? So that you know the advice to give. If you do not oxygenate yourself with the appropriate information in that MMA space, then it's very difficult for you to exhale the right information. You did? Right. And it's if he would have pulled it off, we would have all been calling him genius. He would have been a genius. Yeah, exactly. And you know what? That happens a lot though in with coaches too, especially in the corners with the fighters, where a lot of guys or coaches will be like, tell them to do certain things, and that may be something that coach felt was necessary at that point in time. At that time. Yeah, and they know the athlete more than the other people. And they know how many reps he's done. He may have done maybe 750 reps on that move when he moves his left leg forward at that time, and they were waiting for that call. Yeah, and it's really easy, man, to backseat drive that thing. Yeah. What do you think, in your opinion? Because like I said, your opinion does truly matter to me. This is why I have you on the podcast. I don't really interview people that I don't want to talk to. So I'm a little selfish. Me either. So, but I'm gonna be selfish. Just ask questions based off of what I want to know. But right. But what do you think makes a good coach? Like, is it communication skills? Is it a baseline knowledge of the sport and the science? How are they mended together? What do you think? Man, I've answered this question before. The number one thing is love. Yeah. Bro, you have to love your athletes. You have to love what you do. Yeah. And I'm talking about surpassing passion, because passion can run out, buddy. Yeah. But the love part, when you have to have so much that it's a part of you. You can't live without it. Yeah. And you love it to the point where it becomes a religion because it's what you do religiously. Like there's no way that you could, like, you're always reading new information, research. You probably like me, you get on Google Scholar, look at a couple of abstracts, and then move the stuff to the side. But I'm always, I need to see, did anything change? What's going on over here? Is there anything out of this space? What, you know, I'm looking at the Tim Grover write a new book yet. You know what I'm saying? See, like I even called Tim Grover, man. I got Tim Grover on the phone, buddy. Because nice. I need to know what the hell's going on in the space that we're in. And you have to love it so much that you want to constantly grow. Because man, we're like anybody else. Like you're right now at the top of your game in strength and conditioning as it applies to combat sports right now. You're the guy, period. That's an honor. Thank you. No, listen, and let me tell you something. I've trained with the guy for a while. Like there was a moment when JC Santana was the guy. Yeah, that's true. JC is still good. Yeah. He's a little bit older. Man, he's still mentoring people. He's still sharp. But it's, you know how it is. It's undulations. It's,
for sure, definitely.
You're the guy right now. It's not that Prince couldn't sing. It's just that there was a time when Michael was the guy. Yeah. I like that. That's just how it goes, nice. You know. But love has to be at the forefront, man. And it's difficult because, and the reason why it's difficult is because you and I both have trained athletes that we don't like.
Oh man, a lot.
You don't like them from a character standpoint. Yeah. You don't like what they bring to the table. You don't like any of that. And if you were in a situation where you were just training or doing a one-on-one at $500 an hour, which is what we would normally charge, that people don't understand, you decline working with them. Like the reason why you work for a team is because you love what you do. People don't understand that because the amount of time that you spend when you're a strength and conditioning coach of a team, people don't understand that if you broke down all the hours that you spend in a day doing all the prep, you're not making any money for what it is you're worth.
Yeah, for sure.
No.
For sure. like it's funny because like right now I'm working with my high school football team, and like these kids don't have any money. They're inner city kids, Deerfield Beach High School. You know, they're very good, and we're doing it based off of the love of watching them succeed and getting them out of the situation that they're getting out of. You know, or trying to get them there. And for that gives me more, you know, of an approach. Like I look forward to programming for them. I look forward to coaching them. Same thing with my fighters. You know, when I have an Edson Barbosa or a Dustin Poirier or Joanna Jędrzejczyk who comes in and they put their trust in me to get them to that level of legendary status. That's something that like you have to get up for. So I mean, I feel super. I mean, I'm blessed, obviously, to be doing the things that I'm doing. And again, it goes back, and I love what you said about loving what you do. That's primary why I still do what I do, and I keep progressing. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Let me say this. Let me ask you this, because things have changed a little bit since I'm not as deep in the game as you. And I still watch.
Yeah.
Man, I went to the Olympics, bro.
I know, definitely.
and I've trained in the gym with NFL athletes.
Yeah.
I train I've been all over the world. I'm talking all over the world. I mean, all over the world.
Yeah.
You know, the NFL is really good. The NFL is still a national championship. You know, and so there's always, I tell people there's always levels of athletes. Things have changed. I'm talking about when I was started MMA, I said, man, these I've watched these guys lift.
Yeah.
I've done the beep test numbers. I've done the VO2 max numbers.
Yeah.
I've seen all their numbers. Like the numbers, there's certain numbers that we have that you don't even publish because you're probably like me. I wrote some research. I don't like writing research all the time, but I know the numbers. Okay, I know who's who and what's what, and I know if you're gonna make it 5 5s or not based upon the numbers.
True.
and I know what type of athlete comes in the system. Now, I tell people this all the time. How do you get to baseball, professional baseball? They say, well, you go AA, single A, triple A, come out of high school, you go to college, whatever, and then you go to I said, how do you play football in the NFL? They said, you go to high school, you go to college, you go to the NFL. I said, good. I said, so how do you go to the Olympics in wrestling? They said, well, you go here, you go to high school, and then you win the trials, and you qualify, and you go there. I said, good. I said, so how do you get to the UFC?
Oh my goodness. I'm laughing because I know where you're getting at right now.
And I know your job, so I'm gonna be respectful when I.
No, it's all good. Go ahead.
So, and I tell people that they say I'm a world champion in BJJ, and I say, well, who gives a fuck? I said, how do you get to the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu World Championships? And so, well, you go sign up.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
And I'm not saying that it's not difficult. That's not my discussion.
Yeah, there's just levels. There's levels.
I'm not saying that the athletes at the top aren't good.
Yeah. What
I'm saying is that the breadth and depth of athletes aren't the same.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I'm not saying John Jones is John Jones. Mm-hmm. John Jones can line up and play in the NFL. Yeah. That's a fact. Mm-hmm. John Jones is gonna be okay. I had to tell people John Jones, they don't believe me. Mm-hmm. I said, man, I went to the Olympics in 2004 with Daniel Cormier. Mm-hmm. I'm 45.
Are you 45? You're not 45.
Yeah, I watched Daniel Cormier train. I watched him compete.
Yeah.
I watched people shaking their boots when they stepped on the mat in front of DC.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I watched Daniel place 4th at the Olympic Games. People sitting there comparing John Jones wrestling to them. John Jones is not even in DC's prime. John Jones wouldn't even measure up.
Yeah, definitely.
Athletically, do you understand what I'm saying?
I think that people have a misconception of fighting, of what a fighter is and what an athlete is, and some people, and even when I get like interviews, they're like, "What's it like?"
They conflate the two.
It's very conflicted, and I say to them, I'm like, you really don't know the true definition of an athlete if you're trying to compare that to just a regular fighter. It's very different, and even with Angelica Delgado, somebody that you know very well, she's been to the Olympics, and you can tell a difference in the way she approaches training as opposed to, and I love my MMA guys, but opposed to a regional scene MMA fighter, right? It's totally different. The way they go about their training, the way they go about, the recovery, every little detail, no talking back, never late, always on time. There's just levels to it. And then on top of that, from an athletic standpoint, I feel like you have to have the biomotor abilities. You have to have the ability to watch something and get it, like learn it from the jump, as opposed to having to say it over and over and over again. And don't get me wrong, some of the best fighters aren't athletes, and some of the best athletes suck at being exactly, yeah. So,
but I try to tell people, I said the athletic pool of MMA is paltry in comparison to the athletic pool of Olympic athletes.
Yeah.
What I'm saying, I tell people, I'm trying to tell you, the top people on both sides are probably somewhat similar. Mm-hmm. But when we move down to the second tier, like you go from the world champion in judo to the silver medalist, it's a huge drop. It's a small drop. But if you go from the champion in UFC to the first level contender, there's a huge delta here.
Yeah.
Because the athletic pool is paltry. And I tell people all the time, when people move from one sport and then come into your sport and dominate, they say, well, he lost. I said, yeah, but look, that person can't go into freestyle wrestling or Greco and even come out and make it out. It won't get out of the it won't get out of the trials.
Yeah, we're talking like they say that about like Jordan Burroughs if he goes into MMA and how he would do. It doesn't matter. He's the best wrestler in the world. Like at the end of the day, he set his legacy. Like why would he even go to MMA at this point? And
everybody compares it. Everybody compares it, and they use MMA like it's the rubric. MMA is not the rubric. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you something, man. I could walk inside of a gym, okay, a couple of years ago. I couldn't do it now. Mm-hmm. And I can make it through a pro training session, an MMA pro training session. Mm-hmm. I couldn't go to practice. I can't make it through a whole practice at Kitsune, okay? The place where Angelica practice. I don't know if you've ever been there before.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
If you ever just strap on a gi, like you're good enough to get out on the mat. Like, that practice, they say going, Jimmy Pedro's practice up in Massachusetts is 1 hour. I could not make it through that practice right now. You could not pay me any amount of money to get on the mat in France and do a training camp.
Oh, yeah.
None. I'd be in the hospital.
Yeah, it's crazy out there. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But it's just different athletically. And I want to know how you address, like, because you know the numbers, you know where they need to be.
Yeah.
And in their mind, they think they're there. How do you address that delta as a coach of getting them there, whether physically and physiologically, when they don't really understand that their mindset is not there?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. Again,
and let me say this without breaking them.
Yeah. I mean, it's really just having a solid system. I believe you need to make sure that everything's accounted for. And because of the fact that these individuals are training so many times throughout the weeks, there is a level of understanding of, okay, we need to make sure that we can take into account their acute and chronic workload. And then obviously from there, what is their preparedness? Where is their readiness?
Let me ask you a question, because a lot of people weren't doing this before. Mm-hmm. Who's counting the volume?
Who's counting your volume?
Yeah, who's going over the volume? Like,
definitely
you know the volume of training that you do. Okay.
Yeah, definitely me. I mean, I have the assistants and the interns, but I also like to teach the athletes how to measure out their own volumes in certain ways, you know. So it depends. If we do, and it's subjective, obviously, but I will run off either Prilepin's chart for just a baseline understanding, or we can just get their maximum recoverable volume based off of certain things as far as age in the weight room, their ability to recover from past experiences. And some people are way different. Like Dustin Poirier, I know how much volume I need to give him that he's going to be able to adequately recover from, as opposed to, let's say, an Edson Barbosa, two different guys, same weight class, but two different, you know, types of people and two different athletes in general. So, you know, one's very high fast twitch, the other one's a little bit more slow twitch. So then obviously you're going to have a little bit more of a downgrade there when it comes down to fatigue and managing that fatigue.
How do you deal with your high volume responders for your low volume responders?
So if they do have higher volume responders, then I will definitely make sure that our frequency stays or maintains at least throughout the camp, especially in camp, because again, I don't want them to detrain. The ones that low volume, then I have to make sure that we can bring that up, especially in the off camp. So I'm trying to bring up their general physical preparedness, and that's a basic understanding of just knowing the body and the bioenergetic demands of the sport, right? Is if I overload a certain system, then we have an issue. But for the most part, my goal is to get them to be able to do more volume, more frequency is going to, obviously establish more of an adaptation. So that's primarily my focus in a lot of ways. But the problem is that I can't account for everything that they do outside of the gym. Yeah, right. So
the hardest part is when you're like a real coach, okay? Mm-hmm. Like a real coach. So we gotta make sure we say it the right way. Mm-hmm. If we're coaching football, let's say you and I are on staff coaching football, all right? You're the head, I'm the assistant strength guy. We all sit down, we have a coaches meeting. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In the coaches meeting, they give the people come in with the fucking program for the week, okay, of what we're doing, so that I know when the special team's coming out, when the receivers are out throwing the ball around before practice, what time practice starts, when we're doing inside drill, when we're doing 7-on-7, when we're doing team, who's going to be in the team, what who I'm looking at this week. We're sitting out Smith and Henry because they're a little bit injured, but we're going to run the second and third guys more just because we're in the middle. Okay. We know the volume of what's going on. So now I can tweak what's going on in the weight room based upon what you got going on the field. and then we can move forward.
Exactly.
I've never, ever been in a situation on the MMA side where anybody has handed the documents for what practice looks like for the week. Now, this happens in judo, bro. In judo, in judo, you have warm up. How many rounds of newaza? How many rounds of tachiwaza? The conditioning we're doing at the end. What's the focus for the week? Is it grip fighting? Is it throwing? Is it like? Here's the program. Here's what we're doing. Tweak what you're doing on your end, and then we can marry it like this. The MMA, it's
all over. Yeah,
bro. It's not just all over. And then what happens is you get blamed because you say, my guy's tired, man. I don't know what's going on. My guy's tired.
Hey, listen. You are speaking the truth 100%. All right, listen. So I get this a lot, right? And it's always coming back to, well, he must be doing too much or she must be doing too much strength and conditioning.
It's always you that's doing too much, not.
They didn't just do 2 hours of wrestling practice with Steve Mako either. Like that is that's a whole nother thing in itself. You know?
It's like, hold on, how's it my fault? Like when they lose, everybody loses. Yeah. When the first person they blame is a strength and conditioning coach.
I know it, man.
Either you were too. And here's the thing. Here's what people don't understand. The hardest part of our job is you have to intelligently undertrain the person. Yeah. When you're training, if you get the best thing you can do is peak. Yeah. The problem is in MMA, it is very difficult to peak because you can't control all the variables. You can't control the boxing, the Muay Thai, the wrestling, the jiu-jitsu, and South Florida nightlife.
Yeah. Yep,
there are no Olympic training centers in
yeah, unfortunately, and these guys think it's vacation too sometimes.
And I want to get back to that point that you said about when during the GPP phase. I'm gonna get back to that point. So if you can't control all those variables, and there's very few guys who are coming in and saying, "Hey, Coach Phil, here's my blood work for the last 6 weeks." Yeah. Hey, Coach Phil, here's my blood work for the last 6 weeks.
I gotta drag them in to get blood work. I gotta drag them in. It's crazy.
But you gotta be like, your strength coach needs that blood work every 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, every 6 weeks, because there's hormonal responses. Like if we're going heavy 10 sets of 3 on the repeats on the box squats with bands, I'm doing that to elicit a certain hormonal response. Yep. And the better you get as an athlete, I can't just look at you visually at what you're doing. I got to start looking at the blood work. It's like, it's super, super hard to take a guy who runs 9.58 and get him down to 9.57. It's easier to take a guy that runs 10.2 down to 10 flat. Yeah. So when you start tightening up, in terms of when your growth becomes incremental and no longer exponential, I need more data. Yeah. And if you're not giving, like, you should be coming in with you should have your jawbone on at night, and then like, hey, Coach Phil, here, I'm emailing you my sleep results for the past week. Yeah. Now I got your sleep results. I got your blood. I can see the hormonal responses. I got a good relationship with the doctor that you're going to. Now we can work on what you need in terms of your the exogenous stuff you need to take. We can, like for me, we can make your supplements based upon your blood profile. 100%. If you are a millionaire and there's some millionaires in that gym, then you say, hey man, you make enough money that you should Shannon Sharp your training. What do you mean? You need to get your meals packaged. They need to be delivered to you. Yep. You need to have your own supplement line made because your body is your machine.
Yeah, and that is something that a lot of them miss. But I do see the elite. Once we get to that level, obviously everything counts. And you're saying the right things. It's like if we had more of that micro level, breaking it down to the minute details, that's going to take them to that next step. And it's similar, like Louis Simmons always says this. It's like, he doesn't want anybody that he can, get better within a week's time, because anything that they do, they're going to adapt to, right? Anything. So what we want is the elite of the elite, because it makes our job a little bit more difficult, a little bit more exciting. Right. But with that, we need
you got to find the combination to unlock.
Yeah, that's it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you gotta. It's like they have to help me help them. you know, in that perspective.
And most people don't even know. And that's why I tell people, man, it's really rough when I have these conversations with people. They don't know the amount of minutia that goes into world-class training. I'm not talking about working hard. Fuck working hard, man. I ain't talking about no working hard. I'm talking about sitting down at a table with a team of physios and strength guys and doctors, and you all are sitting down coming up with a plan for this one person to get this 1% change to make them just a little bit better, or what do we need to eliminate to get this person's hemoglobin level up a little bit, and we can do it without stepping across the line. Like, how do we need to manipulate the sugar and the protein and the nutrient time and when they need to eat? And like, man, for some of these athletes, if you tell them, hey man, I need you to eat within the window after you step off the mat, you literally got to be walking behind these guys with, you know, and say, hey man, and you don't have, and what happens is the lower kids, and I call them kids, even though they're not, the lower kids get hurt because some of the professionals aren't doing what they're supposed to do. They don't really know what they're supposed to do as professionals because the game isn't as tight yet. When the game gets tighter, then they'll start doing it more. It's progressed from when I was doing it at UFC 65, UFC 70, but it's not all the way there yet, where you got to worry about the guy in Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan and Russia and the guy in India and the guy in South Africa and the guy. All those guys are getting up at a certain time. They're in the weight room at a certain time. They're lifting at a certain time. The volume is accounted for. The food is made. They eat. They sleep. They get a massage. They stretch. They recover. They're doing that ice bath. They're doing everything on time, like a machine. So it's going to be really, really difficult for people to pay attention to the minutiae. Dominic Cruz and Henry Cejudo. And somebody asked me, they said, who's going to win the fight?
Man, we're having some connection issues. Yeah, it's bad.
Anybody can win the fight. I mean, hell, you know, you throw one of these and somebody throw one at the same. I said, the issue is, you got connection issues? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You cut off just a little bit, but let me see if I can get you back. Hold on 1 second.
How much power you have left?
19. Yeah. 10. Okay. Cool. Yeah, we're good now.
All right. I was saying, somebody asked me about the fight with Cejudo and Dominic Cruz, and they asked me who I think was going to win. I said, man, anybody can win the fight. Yeah. But the question is, who's the better athlete between the two? And clearly, Henry Cejudo is a better athlete.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's going to give him a better opportunity. I said he's just better trained. When you run the art of war, who's better trained? Who has the better practice partners? Yeah. Dominic is. I mean, I know Dominic. Dominic's a friend of mine. Yeah. And Dominic's an older man. Yeah. Dominic looked considerably slower than Henry Cejudo did.
Yeah, you can see he lost a couple steps there, you know.
But that's maturity. That's natural. That's called life.
Yeah, it happens.
It happens. It happens to everybody. But man, it just the levels are different. When you're talking about someone who's an Olympic champ, the levels are just different. Yeah. Now, here's what I wanted to discuss. The main difference between professionals, like professionals, and amateurs are when they think the off season is. That time after the fight, everybody gets that week off. We got it. Some people get 2, depending on your age. Okay. That time when there's no fight, that's the time to grind as hard as possible. Not when you sign the contract. For sure. If you grind as hard as possible when there's no fight, you could take all your camp working on strategies and tactics, not getting in shape. But if you're spending your camp getting in shape, then when we look at, as soon as you sign the contract, we outline the chronological landscape. Okay, how much time from the signage of the contract until the date of the fight? Yep. And then we got to ask ourselves, we got to do SWOT analysis. What do we need? What don't we have? So we got on this, and then it's an overall SWOT analysis for the person, and then what do we need to create for the person we're fighting? And then we got, and you make the blocks: boxing, Muay Thai, wrestling, grapple, right? And then you say, okay, where we at shape wise? We would love to only have to do power and power endurance. We love to be like, I don't need it for 45 minutes, coach. I got sets of 2s and 3s, a little bit of metabolic hit at the end, 8 weeks. Done, right? Yeah. But what do you got to do? You got to do VO2 max work for the first 5 weeks of the camp. And then you try to do the power endurance at the last 2 weeks and then send them out. And then they say, well, why is he tired? Well, he's tired because he or she didn't do the work.
Yeah. He came in 6 weeks out from the fight. Like, you know, and they didn't develop anything. That's the point, is that the ones that do stick with it, the ones that I know that are at the highest level, they're constantly on the program. They're constantly working, right? They're maintaining, if not anything, their transition phase, and then we go into a GPP phase where we're working solely to gain that readiness and preparedness into the camp. Once the camp starts, it's all over. Pretty much what I'm doing is maintaining as much as I possibly can.
Right.
You know, and then trying to make sure that they have, obviously the hierarchy of importance is going to be the skills training, and that's definite. At the same time, you still want to make sure that you're monitoring fatigue, and we do that with like objective and subjective indicators. So either way, you know, we got a basis of understanding of what's going on inside their body, but they have to play ball too as well. They can't lie to us, or they can't not take their HRV testing in the morning and say they're fine or whatever. It's on the fighter too as well to take their profession in their own hands, and we can guide them and aid them in what they need. But again, it's a two-way street.
Right. For the people who are listening, man, and for me, I want to know what you do too. What do you do in terms of some of the subjective testing? So I mean, some of it is just asking the athlete how you feel. Yeah. But what happens is when we get to higher level athletes, and you gotta know the athlete, they'll never tell you they feel bad. They'll always say they feel fine, and you got to look at them if they're slumping over sometime. So talk about
a lot of just like you said, like looking at their mannerisms, looking at how they are approaching training, talking to the other coaches too as well, how they're doing in the other training, and then we talk about how was your sleep? Did you feel tired when you woke up? Could you not go to sleep? Did you wake up in the middle of the night? Is the coordination off inside of like the dynamic warm-ups and things of that nature? And then from there, again, yes, talking to them. And that comes with trust and communication. Like, I know my guys right now, Dustin will tell me the truth. Like, there's no ego there with that. But I can tell when they're lying, too, as well. So that's one of the things, is that you have to develop that coach's eye to have, it's the art of coaching, right? You have the science, but then you have to make sure that you can understand an individual. So that's something that we utilize. And then from an objective indicator, obviously we do HRV monitoring. I like the Omega Wave because it measures out direct current and autonomic nervous system. Then we'll also do like a grip dynamometer test, and then I also just basic work. Yeah, I mean, if we can, definitely. There's times where I'm like, you know what, I'd really like to see what's going on from the inside out, from that perspective. Right. But a lot of guys, it's very hard to get them to go get blood work. It's hard to get them out of the gym, out of ATT or wherever the gym is, and get them to do these other means of understanding their body.
What's so rough is that some don't understand. Like, okay, the blood work it's not going to mean anything for this fight, but. Yeah. All right, I got your blood work from the first prep we did, pre and post,
collecting data.
Boom. I got pre camp, pre-fight, post.
Yeah.
And then I got it from the second. Then I got it for the third. Then I got it for the fourth. Now I can overlay, and I can see per what we did. Training program, response, what works best for you, and then everything gets calibrated over a period of time, and then we get better and better and better.
Yeah.
It's difficult for them to understand that level of processing and that level of programming. And they just look at it as, hey man, I'm going in there to lift some weights, and then you're gonna get me ready.
100%.
That's not what it is, and you can't have that conversation with a lot of them because they get overwhelmed.
Yes, 100%, definitely.
How do you
I would say, that takes coaching, that takes teaching, instructing in the right manner. That's when we talk about, what makes a good coach, I think it's relaying over information for the individual to understand from a basic perspective, as opposed to me trying to big time them with jargony words, and that right there helps with, them trusting in me, trusting in the process, along with the metrics and seeing results too as well. But I do believe, you have to have that ability to take a very complex subject and turn it very simple for them to understand, and then reframe it to where they are going to want to hear you, because a lot of fighters, they love to hear how it's going to correlate or, have that correspondence to the sport or what they're doing inside the fight. So reframing is a big deal for us too as well.
Yes.
But you have to know the sport. You have to, I know how it feels to be, to get into a grind situation and have to fight for your life and to cut weight and be, stressed out for the entire camp. And that's one of the reasons why I feel like I've been successful in understanding the athlete and then having that proper communication and them trusting in me that I'm not doing the wrong things for them.
Yeah, because your messaging is correct.
Exactly.
Let me ask you this, because this is cool for me, like it's cool for you. It was really difficult to get the high level coaches to understand at the top level. All right, when I was in high school playing football, the coaches run you. You know what I mean? The coaches run you, conditioning. You go to college. When I got to college, the pace and tempo of practice is what make practice hard.
Yeah.
There's no conditioning. Maybe a couple. There's no conditioning.
Yeah.
Because the reason why is because that's the strength and conditioning coach's job. And when you're having jiu-jitsu practice, wrestling practice, the boxing, you're having all these practices, and everybody's conditioning at the end of practice. Yeah. It messes up this. It does. I have the hardest time telling coaches, "Hey, stop conditioning these guys at practice and work on the skill and that. Use your whole 60 minutes, 45 minutes for skill development, and leave the strength and conditioning to me. Otherwise, you're gonna. I'm in the kitchen cooking, then I turn my back, and you add a little salt to the pot because it don't taste like you think it need to taste, and then I come back and I add more salt to the pot, and now the whole dish is effed up. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, listen, it's still like that to this day, and I'm not gonna sit here and lie, and it's tough because the understanding, but they need to train their sport. And I get that, there's specificity, and that becomes an importance, especially getting closer to the camp. But you got to take into account accumulation of work. And they're not seeing that from that perspective. It's like, okay, we're going to finish off the day by running sprints on the mats or, something along the lines. I'm like, why? I look at it and I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of contradicting and almost negatively affecting our progression. It's detraining them in a way.
In the coaches meeting, I've had to say one time, let me ask you a question. So how would you feel if I was in the gym and I just start putting on some pads and start doing pad work with the guy in practice? Now, there's a bit of cross training where you could do some pad work and then some explosive, but that's training. But if you would start going in their environment hard while you're training and say, you know what,
today teach them skills. Just teaching them skills. This is how you throw the jab.
Today, instead of going in the weight room, I got some other stuff I want to work on. So let's get on. Everybody gear up and let's get on the mat. Let's go over some jiu-jitsu today.
Yeah.
And they look at you like you were crazy.
Yeah. And
it's because you've been rolling for a while.
Yeah.
You're not a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but your skill is good. But there's still things that you don't know in that space.
Yeah, of course,
Right.
100%.
But because you've been exposed in that space, you know a lot. They've been exposed to the training space, so they know a lot. But there's things that they don't know.
Oh yeah.
And they
It's
suffer from
underlying.
they suffer from the Dunning-Kruger effect. They don't know that they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's.
I feel like everybody kind of I feel like a lot of people suffer from that.
They do what I really try to do is, and I see you do it too. Is you try to bathe yourself in as much as possible.
Yeah.
You really need to know on the judo side, you need to know what it feels like for your cardiovascular conditioning to be fine, for your legs to be fine, but your forearms have left the building. Yeah. And you try to move your hands and your fingers, they won't. There's so much buildup of acid in the forearms that you can't move your fingers. People don't know what that feels like. They don't know how to train that local muscular endurance. They don't know that when you train in boxing, the ability to throw a hard punch is based upon the integrity of the supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minus, and subscapularis. The ability to punch long is based upon anterior deltoids, pecs. So the two things are different. So you're like, I'm doing push-ups, working on the punching power. Yeah. You're doing push-ups to work on the ability for local muscular endurance that will allow you to punch.
Yeah.
To throw a punch hard is based upon the rotator cuff muscles. Yeah. To throw a punch hard systemically is based upon the creation of ground force through the musculature of the core. Absolutely. And then the ability to make that arm slingshot per the rotator cuff that allows you to snap the punch hard. You understand what I'm saying?
No, 100%. Yep. I mean, breaking it down in that degree, and that's why I always say it's context driven. Like, you have to make sure that you know what you're doing and why you're doing it for a specific purpose. And some people will typecast it as, okay, he's working push-ups, so I guess he's trying to get their punches stronger. That's not the case. So there's always a means and there's always a method to the madness that we do in there. And then that's why I like when I do like content and I put out posts, I make sure I describe what I'm doing so that the individual can understand that this isn't just a workout for the sake of it being a workout. There's specific means for us to get the stimulus response that we need to do based on the individual. But, it gets looked at some ways as just general in a lot of ways. And it's tough for guys like for yourself too, I'm sure, is that you have to be very careful of what you put out, and when you put out, You
have to, because there's a level of morals and ethics and professional responsibility that you want to have. I don't want to give people. I don't want to do the 5-minute ab thing. I don't want to do it. A lot of people, what people don't understand, like if you hand me one of your programs, okay, and I see people look at programs and start critiquing the programs. Yeah. When I look at a program, the first thing I'm asking myself is, okay, what's not on here? And what's not on here is, all right, is this person married? Are they in a relationship? What's the commute time for them to get to the gym? How much are they sleeping? Yeah. Because all those things matter. Okay, where are they in the developmental process? Yeah. How long have they been doing MMA? How long have they been grappling? How long have they been doing such and such? What's their training age? And then when I get all that, then I can look at the program and I can say, okay, good, I understand what's coming from. A lot of people look at a program and they say, oh, this is out of order. They shouldn't be doing this and they shouldn't be doing that. Man, you don't know who that. I don't know if the athlete is hurt. I don't know if we're working around something. Like I don't know what's going on. I don't know if we're specifically working on a weakness right now. There's a lot of things in the program that people don't understand the program. Like case in point, you have some athletes who their warm up is longer than their workout. Yeah. 100%. And the reason being is because this is not a. If I got a kid who's been playing linebackers in high school and he played linebacker in college and he comes to you in the league, you can't see he's playing linebacker. There's some stuff that you don't got to go over with him. Yeah. But when you got guys coming into MMA, man, some of them have no athletic experience, no development. They just come straight out of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is it's not a ground-based. And from a strength and conditioning position, it's not a ground-based art. Like meaning you don't have to plant your foot and turn and move. They don't have those. They don't have the skills of locomotion. You're talking about push, pull, level change, locomotion, and what the hell is rotation? They don't have it. So you said, I watched you. I said, this dude is spending all this time getting these people to understand locomotion. Like 90% of your work with some of the need to be better athlete fighters. Okay. Right.
Preach on. Go ahead. Let's see it.
You have to spend time with locomotion, and they're like, "Well, wait, I don't know why." I know people are watching saying, "I don't know why he's doing all that football training for." For you don't understand what you're looking at.
Oh, no.
The bottom line is for you to be able to. For you to be this is locomotion. It's just locomotion in your world, and if you don't feel comfortable with locomotion, and if you cannot balance on a single leg, you cannot do anything standing.
That's it.
I try to tell people, I even told my son, when it comes to running, you're only running on one leg at a time. When you shoot, you're shooting off of one leg, and then you're transferring off of that. If you cannot plant your foot on the ground and get some good ground force and transfer that through the rest of your body, as an athlete, you suck. Thing about it is that people who do a lot of jiu-jitsu and a lot of groundwork, they're sitting there scooting on the ground.
They don't have that. They have no force into the ground at all, ever.
And what happens is when they get tired, they're going to go to the most natural neural pathway that they've created. So when they get tired, they hit and then they fall to their back. Why? Because that's their ability. That's their ability to rest. And if you've ever been to a judo practice or jiu-jitsu practice, the athlete will present themselves to the coach and say, in judo practice, they say, "Man, coach, I hurt my knee." He said, "Cool, you do stand up today, don't do any groundwork." And if you're in jiu-jitsu practice, you say, "Man, coach, I hurt my knee." He says, "Cool, man, don't do any stand up, just do groundwork." Right.
Stay in your back.
Right. It's because that's where they feel most comfortable. That's where they feel the safest. The thing about it is that you'll find out the people who do a lot of jiu-jitsu, they present with very, very weak posterior chains. They present with weak quads. They present with low squat numbers. They present with low VO2 max if you test them on a running test, or you test them on a time mile, or you test them on a beep test. They're very, very good in terms of
grappling
core, the strength of their core in one plane. But it's not the one that we need in order to fight. So when people ask me, what's the best skill for fighting? So it's fighting. Because I have bias, I tell them judo. They say, well, wrestling. I say, wrestling, judo, jacket, no jacket, pajama. Both of those are going to be the best, and it's not based upon the skill. It's based upon what that level of skill requires you to develop, and then what I can use in the mixed martial arts environment. That's the difference.
That's what I was going to ask you too. Is like a lot of people ask me this, just basic, because a lot of them just think of me as an MMA coach, MMA strength and conditioning coach. They don't know that I work with boxers and judo and football and baseball and all these other sports. And what I tell them is like, well, what do you think is the best base to have for an MMA fighter to come into? I said, man, he's got to have a base understanding of movement quality. Like if they as kids did gymnastics or dance even,
which is the best,
and then you throw in, you throw in judo, you throw in wrestling, one for the grit too. I believe in mental fortitude, especially with the practices that they go through, but also understanding how to distribute their weight properly, and then and put force into the ground with a shot or with a throw, and understanding how to move their hips,
with the desire to, so you get rocked or you get off balance in some in jiu-jitsu, you just go down. With the other two sports, you find a way to maintain the integrity of your positioning.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is tough, which is why you got to do the single leg and you got to push them and they got to balance and this stuff that should be simple that you have to coach at that level. Yeah. Like you damn near got to play hopscotch with these kids. You know, they got to jump. Like
literally.
Yeah. Literally. So when I look at it, it looks like it's almost, you know, from a strength and conditioning standpoint, it's rudimentary work that you would not even have to give like if you go to Thomas Aquinas High School in South Florida, you don't got to do some of that work.
No.
Now other high schools you might, but at that one you don't. At that high school we can get after it.
Yeah,
all right.
Sure.
It's different. Mm-hmm. The quality, like you said, the quality of movement, the athletic development, because they don't move up a standard chain to enter into the thing, they don't get it. Well, when people ask you that question, the one thing that's the same in all those sports that baseball, boxing, judo, wrestling, that jiu-jitsu really misses is the element of rotation. There's no training done in the transverse plane. So that means their punching power out the gate when you get them is already compromised.
Yeah, there's no shift, there's nothing, there's no rotation at all. It's true.
There's no rotation at all.
Yeah, and you know, obviously it also comes with the inability to rotate through the scap and through the shoulder, like you talked about.
Correct.
Because they're just kyphotic in nature, right?
Exactly. So they come right, and that's who they need to be for that sport.
Yeah.
And most judo players could present like that. Now judo players still got a rounded bulldog look, but they pull back so much because of the pulling. So it kind of evens out. But if you looked at like Angelica's Delgado's back, you can see that it's probably humped up on one side, just like a baseball player.
It really is. It really is. I actually just said that. I was like, you know, you got a little bit of a shoulder dip, you know, and that primarily probably comes from her throwing technique and where she favors her throws.
So the thing about judo is it's gonna be on a diagonal act. So if I'm always pushing this way, but then I'm pulling this way. So this shoulder is like a crab claw.
Gotcha.
And it's back, boom, and the lat on this side is big. So you get this muscle. You can't really see it unless the shirt is off and they got on a sports bra or dude doesn't have a top on. And I say this was what I had to learn. Don't fix that shit.
Yeah, you can't. You're gonna mess up.
Listen, like now, me and you, we're talking to coaches or other strength coaches. Yeah. Listen, leave that shit alone. That's like trying to take a tennis player and make their left forearm as big as the right one. Leave it alone, buddy.
Yeah.
Now, are they gonna have problems when they retire?
Probably. It's the cost to be the boss.
That's right.
You know?
That's the buy-in to sit at the table, buddy.
Right. That's it.
So, and the longer you do it, the more you're going to pay. Now, once you get done, there's some work you got to go back and do.
Yeah.
But there's also a responsibility that we have as strength coaches. That's why we do the Supermans. Mm-hmm. That's why we do some of the rockers back and forth. No, that's not going to help you become a world champion. But we still have a job to make sure that when you retire, everything doesn't fall apart. Yeah, I could just load you up on one thing and not even worry about it. And I did that when I was with Juan Carlos Santana, and in 2003, I tore my LCL off the bone with an avulsion fracture. Mm-hmm. LCL replacement, the rehab is 9 months. It takes 9 months.
Yeah.
I came back in 5.5.
Wow. Yeah, that's quick.
I came back in 5.5. My first tournament back, I popped my right quad on my right leg. I popped it off the bone because I was using it more than the left leg.
Yeah.
Now, what we did was we said, you know what? We can't train everything here. Mm-hmm. We got to fortify you as much as we possibly can. Get your leg back as much as we can, because you can't do hamstring curls out the gate.
Yeah.
When the LCL is healing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you got to find a way to train the hamstring doing, reaches and posterior reaches and bang your glutes as much as possible without putting the stress on the outside of your knee. But what we did is we just fortified my upper body, just to hell with it. Bang the upper body as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
What happens there? Well, after a while, you get a torn
rotator.
No, torn labrum.
Yeah,
because so much, one arm push-ups and 30 reps to 225. Like I look like the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember those pictures. I was like, okay.
Yeah, but it's all, and this is another thing that people don't do when they're hurt. And this is what we get out of football. So for those people listening, if you're hurt, let's say you play for University of Miami or Florida State and you're hurt. You say you're hurt. If you're hurt, they send you inside with the assistant coach, strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah.
And what you do is you leg press until you vomit.
Mm-hmm.
And then you bicep curl until you vomit. And you tricep extension until you vomit.
Make you not want to stay in there.
You sit up until you vomit. And then you do toe raises. And this is every day.
Yeah.
And after a while, you're like, oh, I'm not hurt anymore. They said, no,
exactly.
You said you were hurt. You were hurt. And
it's worse than the practice.
It's worse than the practice. But what they do is they physically just fortify your body so strong that so that when you come back, you can jump right on the field of play. And that's how people do it. Like if your left leg is hurt, they'll put you in the weight room and just hamstring curl your right leg until you fatigue, and somebody will carry you over to the leg extension and hammer that one, and they'll just beat the shit out of you.
Yeah.
Until you develop into the product that they need you to be pre-injury. You know what I'm saying?
That's it. Yeah. It's that's honestly what because I got hurt a couple of times in college too, and I had a lot of like pinched nerve damage. And I'm 5'8", 205, and I was a gunner on the kickoff team, and I played strong safety. And every practice, every game, it was like collision, beyond collision. And at that point, they were just kind of like, all right, well, we're going to get your legs as big, as strong as possible. And that's exactly what they did, basically. It was a lot of leg press. I did a lot of terminal knee extensions, like different types of positions, single leg work, bunch of stuff like that, which got my body to the point where it was almost callous to pain in a sense, because I put it through pain. It was just nothing, So now, Rhadi, I could talk to you for another hour and a half, 2 hours, but I gotta get you out of here. I want people to know where they can find you. If they have any questions. You dropped a lot of knowledge. I personally, I thank you for coming on here, and we'll talk some more after. But yeah, just tell them where they can find you, like Instagram, and all the Facebook, I believe too as well.
Yeah, and you can find me on Instagram with my name at Rhadi Ferguson, RHADIFERGUSON. And I also have my judo club page at Tampa, Florida Judo. You can always Google me. I'm on Facebook. And the one thing I want to drive some of you all to is to understand the delicateness of the relationship that an athlete has with their friends and their family and their significant others. I wrote a book called Enhance or Destroy: Relationship Lessons from an Elite Athlete. You can find it at www.enhanceordestroy.com, which is on it's on Amazon. It's a book that was highly heralded by Rashad Evans, who I used to train. We didn't really get into that, but a lot of elite athletes have read the book, and I would encourage you, if you want to be an elite athlete or if you are in a relationship with one, to read the book. Finally, man, Phil, I really thank you for your time, man. I'd love to come on here again. Listen, I learned a lot from you. I guess Mo Lawal was trying to hook us up for some time. But we finally hooked up, and let's continue the conversation. I got some other stuff, man. I wanna ask you. And, I'm really, really impressed with what you're doing, man.
Oh, thank you.
I appreciate what you're doing for the combat sports industry, bro.
Oh, thanks, brother. I appreciate it. All right, I'm Phil Daru. That's Rhadi Ferguson. Check him out, and I'm out.